Taking you till 6 tonight, Sports Bash, Mike and Ryan. It's Tuesday with Thompson. Pete Thompson is in the house.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to talk until 5 o'clock. So,
you're allowed to talk whenever you want.
So I know you wanted me to talk at like 4:58 and, as you were going to break there. But
no.
The PT does not work until the bell hits 5. 5, sir.
You had to get in the zone. You had
Right.
to stretch. You had to get the towel around your neck. You had to adjust your Jesus sandals. There's a process.
No. Actual sneakers on today with socks. And they're not white sneakers, and they're not white socks.
Wouldn't today be a Jesus sandal day?
Absolutely. But you know what, you SOB? I actually had not cut my toenails, and I'm like, I'll be damned if I'm wearing my Jesus sandals in there for 5 seconds in, have Mike Gill say, your toenails look disgusting. So
Come on.
There you go.
It's a strong decision by you.
Socks. Go with socks.
It's like perfect Jesus sandal day today.
Oh, very much so. It's wonderful outside.
We've got Sixers and Nets tonight. 97.3 ESPN's coverage begins at 8 o'clock. Thanks to Tim Legler jumping on board the show. We also talked a lot about this Donovan McNabb stuff the last couple of days. We talked a lot about Arietta and Harper. We also talked a lot about the Sixers and Nets. One of the things, by the way, I found your tweet.
Yes, let's get into it. If you want.
PT, you could be the judge of the tweet.
All right, I have not seen the tweet, so I'm not prejudging. This will be the first, so go ahead.
Okay.
First of all, can I make my opening statement, and then you can
Is this
read
like
the tweet?
A preemptive block?
Yeah, it is.
Well, now he read the tweet figure.
No.
He's got me.
No, you don't got me at all. Listen, Twitter, for those of you that don't know, you have 140 characters.
No, you got 240.
No, I have 140.
No,
I don't have
everybody
240.
has 240.
I do not have
it's
240.
it's increased now, sir.
Everybody has 240.
Yeah. See, you're already.
So you're already
in a hole.
You're already in the hole there.
Okay, 240. Make it 440. The point is, that's still not enough to completely give a thought about how you feel on certain things. Like, you can react to situations.
Can we read the tweet?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm dying to
Read
hear
it.
what this tweet
Okay.
is. Yeah.
It's not an accident how well Ben played tonight without Joel.
Yep.
The game is easier for Simmons when Embiid isn't on the floor with him.
Okay.
I don't think long-term they are both Sixers.
Yep.
Does that sound a lot like what I said, PT?
It sure sounds a lot one or the other.
Yeah.
One stays, one goes.
No, it doesn't say
No,
that.
no,
He
no.
wants one or the
Exactly.
other. He's saying, I don't think that they can coexist.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I just was predicting that they're not going to be Sixers long term. I want them both to be Sixers long term, and I think with the right coach, and if they develop and mature the right way, they can coexist. The Sixers, Ben Simmons had his best career game in Game 3. That's not an accident. Tobias Harris had his best game of the series. Not an accident. J.J. Redick, best game of the series. Also not an accident. The Sixers' pace of play was at its highest in Game 3.
Real quick on that.
Yeah.
Everybody's numbers are going to go off when you take out a guy who scores 30.
That's not true at all. If you remove your best player,
Somebody
you're
else
going to be worse.
I don't know, not necessarily.
I mean, yeah, most of the time
No,
that's
but
how it
my
goes.
point is, if you're taking out Embiid's production,
Right.
it that opens up the opportunity for someone else's production to go up. If he scores 38 points in a game and then he's not there, well, that opens up the opportunity for somebody else to score, maybe not 38, but
Right.
that takes away X amount of touches from that particular player. So, of course, it's that's not a surprise. Like,
No, it is a
Joel
surprise.
Embiid's not here, so therefore somebody else's numbers went up. Well, yeah, the guy who scores 30 a game is not touching the ball.
When it's Ben Simmons with plenty of criticism surrounding him, as we all know,
But see, here's the
it
thing.
isn't a surprise. It
Ben
is a
Simmons
surprise.
was
I mean.
able to distribute in that game like the pure point guard that he really is. Right?
Well, what-
point forward, point guard, point center,
Which
whatever
game
it
are
is.
you talking about?
The same game he's talking about when Embiid isn't on the floor with him,
Yeah.
that Simmons was able to go off. Why was he able to go off? Because he didn't have to – the whole game didn't have to go through number 21.
It's not an accident that Legler just said they need more structure in the offense. And his answer was specifically referring to the question I asked him, which was, can Ben and Joel coexist? What have you seen this series between the two of them? And he said, it's lacking structure. So in Game 3, when you remove Embiid, all of a sudden Simmons is getting out in transition.
But I
he
don't know
has
that
more room
I think
in
he
the
just
paint.
said their offense in general was lacking structure. I don't think he was referring to the two of those guys.
No, he
together.
was referring to Simmons and I think the offense in general. But I asked him about
Right.
Simmons
Well,
and
the question
Embiid.
you asked was about that, but I think as he was pontificating on it for a while, he got to, I don't think their offense has enough structure to begin with, not just equating to those two guys playing together.
Okay. I mean, I took it
Which
one
I
way.
agree with him on.
Right.
I don't think their offense has enough structure, and I think one of the reasons is because a lot of it almost by he'd be an idiot not to run it through Embiid.
Right. Yeah, and it's not necessarily a knock, but you have to still find each player's strengths, and you have to get creative in your play calling, and you have to know their strengths and weaknesses.
Well, let's say this. Dudley's not wrong
With
about
what?
Simmons. He has not been a great half-court player.
Oh, he's right.
So what are his strengths in the half-court that they could utilize better?
He can post up. He's 6'10", a great passer, and
Find a mismatch. Essentially, what you're talking about.
Yeah, essentially always a mismatch. And if you have a different lineup in there that doesn't consist of Embiid, I actually think you could do this with Embiid, but without him, you can spread the floor 5 wide and use a pick and roll with Simmons and whoever, or just completely spread the floor out.
That all sounds great in theory, but let's be honest. They're not winning a championship under that configuration.
Not with the current personnel, probably not. But
not with any personnel. Unless you're the Warriors, you're not winning with that configuration.
I mean, look at the Bucks. That's exactly
They
what
want
they're
to win
doing.
the championship?
Maybe not this year, but
Okay.
they're the best team in the NBA, and they're probably the favorites to come out of the East,
Now,
like Legs just said.
Ryan, when you put that tweet out 10:33 in the morning on April 19th, so good job by MG to let that marinate, sit, saturate until he, boom, brought that back on you 4 days
I just
later.
remembered it
No,
now.
well, it's clear that my tweets rub him the wrong way on a consistent basis.
Well, here's my question, though. When you put that tweet out then, you said, I don't think they're both long-term, they're both Sixers.
Yeah.
You're not talking about Embiid in that sentence, then, are you?
I don't know. If I had
I
to
guess
predict,
I'd like to get more of the tweet. You said you didn't have enough characters.
Yeah.
I'm giving you more characters.
'Cause basically-
You have unlimited
Yeah,
characters.
all right.
Go ahead, buddy. Run with it and tell me which one's going to leave and why.
MG is reading it a certain way, and if you just read it in plain text, it can be interpreted like I'm insinuating or I want one of them gone.
I don't even think it matters whether you're insinuating or not. I think the comment of one of them has to go.
No, I didn't say
Isn't your opinion, but even to bring it up is suggesting, well,
I mean, that was the storyline after Game 3 until Game 4. I mean, that was nationally media, local media. That was in every article anywhere.
I know.
Was
What's it called? It's
that
been,
story.
Cowherd has been going off on this, that
Yeah.
this is the future. No, the only future this is the Golden State Warriors. And everybody thinks they can out-Warrior the Warriors. It's not happening.
Yeah.
You can't build a team to try to emulate what they're doing. It won't work. There's one team that has the ability to have 4 or 5 guys blasting threes from all over the place. And the Sixers don't have that personnel.
Yeah.
So what I had said 2 years ago was the team that finally takes down this incarnation of the Warriors is a group that does something completely different. And that other teams will say, well, we can't
That's the
stop
path.
this guy, so we have to change what we're doing to try to contend with them, and that's Joel Embiid.
I think that could
And
be
potentially Ben Simmons.
Right.
If Ben Simmons is the aggressor that played the other night, it doesn't matter. Here's my problem. It shouldn't matter that Joel Embiid's on the floor for Ben Simmons to play like that. He should be able to be that aggressive even with Embiid. And in fact, it should help him be more aggressive, because if Embiid's on the floor and he's down in the post and he dribble drives to the basket, you're either A, going to come over to Ben Simmons and try to double him, which is going to have who wide open?
Joel Embiid.
You're smart enough to get that
Even
one
I
right.
got that one.
And
Thank
if
you.
you're not going to double him, then Ben Simmons is going to be one-on-one in the paint with some schmo.
That is a possibility, but overall, Ben Simmons' role significantly changes with Embiid on the floor compared to off the floor. When Embiid's on the floor, like you just said a few minutes ago, the offense runs through Embiid.
But I'm saying it doesn't have to be so Embiid-centric.
Insert Brett Brown. Because what we've seen with Brett Brown at the helm is it's Embiid.
I don't know
and
that it's
that's it.
fully Brett Brown, that it's Ben Simmons has not shown the willingness to be if he is as aggressive
Game
as
3.
he was in
that
Game 2 without Joel Embiid.
I have a question. Was Ben Simmons, in your guys' opinion, Was Ben Simmons' Game 3 performance a result of no Joel Embiid on the floor, or a result of how poorly he played up to that point? Like, oh,
Both.
yeah, and the trash talk that happened out there, right?
Yes.
Wasn't that
100%.
talk all before Game 3?
Yes, that is
Right?
100% a big factor. But
Dudley Do right? He put out his information before Game 3.
yes,
Ben Simmons can't cover a paper bag. Ben Simmons,
Right.
He's terrible.
Yep.
He's
He's
off
Dad
the
bod.
half court.
court.
It's Dad Bod Dudley on this show.
hashtag Dad Bod Dudley.
All right, very good.
Spike Dudley, Bully Ray
I
Dudley,
heard your Dudleys the other
Elmer
day.
Fudd.
I almost drove off the car. I was laughing so
Devon
hard.
Dudley,
Sure.
Big Dick Dudley.
Yep, that's my favorite. Yep.
But PT, you bring up great points, and that's true.
Did he respond because there was no Embiid, or did he respond because he'd got basically challenged?
He responded because he got challenged, but the production that was resulted from that was assisted from Embiid not being on the floor. Simmons does not get 31. Now, this is not tangible, and it's just my opinion at this point. But I don't think Simmons gets 31 in that game with Embiid on the floor.
Of course not. He doesn't
Right.
touch the ball enough.
But that's what PT was asking. So that's what I'm saying. It's a factor of him getting challenged.
However,
and Embiid not being on the floor.
I think there's a balance of this team could be even more dangerous if Ben Simmons was with Embiid on the floor and had the same level of aggression of taking the ball to the basket and getting himself to the line and being that player that he was. Embiid can only accentuate those things.
I mean,
in the
and
half
why,
court.
why hasn't
But
Ben,
that's what we're talking about, the half court.
why
Right, but-
hasn't Ben learned how to play with Embiid up to this point? Like,
Well-
literally, how much more practice
I mean,
game experience do you need with a guy to be able to be a lethal 1-2 punch? That's another question. Why now are we still talking about can Joel and Ben coexist? Why can't they? Is it talent or is it personality?
It's good. That's another great point. I mean, their styles of play are going to continue to butt heads. Like, this is not going to be the last conversation we have of this. Can they coexist? Of course they can. They're two all-stars. But Brett Brown, I think, could be better at making it easier for them. It's not a knock, but he's learning as well.
Well, part of it, the issue becomes you've got Ben and Joel, okay? They're both very different type of players, one of which doesn't shoot at all. One of which wants to shoot too much. Then you add in Jimmy Butler. What kind of how would you describe his offensive game? He's not a shooter.
ISO.
Yeah, he takes the ball to the basket. He gets himself to the line. He can make jumpers, but that's not his strong suit.
He's
So now you're
clutch,
trying to
though.
do-
Jimmy Butler can hit
Yes,
clutch
he is.
baskets.
So now you're trying to infiltrate him with Jimmy and Ben and Joel.
Yeah.
Plus, you got a one-dimensional player in J.J. Redick who is a off-the-screen, catch-and-shoot, three-point guy, doesn't put the ball on the floor very well.
Defensive liability. Sure. Here's what I know.
Now, you
Yeah.
add Tobias Harris into this mix.
Okay.
What is his game? He has mid-range. He shoots the three. He can put the ball on the floor. Now you are tangibly trying to, in 48 minutes, exemplify and accentuate all of their positives in a 12-game stretch. Good luck.
Well, I know that, look, there's never enough minutes for every player, right? Every player wishes he got more minutes. Every player wants to be the guy, except for maybe Ben, right? Ben is the one guy that
I think Ben is willing to wait his turn,
right. But
Yeah,
everybody
he is.
else, like you bring up Jimmy
which
Butler.
pisses people off.
It does.
Yeah, especially in
couple
this
that
town.
with not shooting.
You just want to see some emotion, some reaction, any reaction. You generally don't see any of that. Ben's face is always a mask, whether he had his big game in Game 3 or whether he was awful in Game 1.
Yeah.
You see the same exact stone-faced Ben you're going to see every single time.
But he has shown a little bit more passion this series, and he's played with a little bit more anger. I also tweeted that out at Ryan973 ESPN, that the team has played, specifically Ben, with more anger and swagger that I've seen them play with in the past. But he's still an emotionalist.
I mean,
SOB.
you saw Marcus Hayes' piece after the game when Joel Embiid, like the category that he's in, according to basketballreference.com, Marcus Hayes wrote, only one other player had the same kind of stat line in a playoff game. That guy's name is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yep.
He did it in 1974. Nobody else he had one more assist than
But if
Embiid.
you're the
Nobody
coach-
else
And he
had
wasn't
those
even
numbers.
at his best, PT.
I know.
He had a
That's what's
sloppy
amazing.
fourth quarter.
If you're the coach, and I'm not if you're any coach, you walk into this team, why wouldn't I be featuring Joel Embiid?
No,
like,
you
why
should.
do I care how many points? This goes back to a conversation we had a while ago. If Ben Simmons has 9 points, that shouldn't matter. Like, if they're looking at him to score 31, it's a dire situation.
Yeah.
I don't care how many points. We shouldn't care how many points Ben Simmons scores on this team.
I'm with you 100%, but is Ben okay with that for the next 15 years?
I think so.
I think so too, but I don't
he
think any
defers
of us
on every chance he gets.
But maybe he low-key eventually wants his own team like every superstar ever wants. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, you look at
I don't know that he is the right – I think he is great. We talk about transcendent player. He has transcendent skill set, but I don't think he's a transcendent player that is going to change your franchise to make it go from the worst team in the league to all of a sudden a title contender because of the way he needs other guys around him.
Well, yeah, because this whole setup is to distribute the basketball. If he's not going to score it, somebody else has to score it. So the Ben Simmons that we see,
he wants someone else to score it.
Not only does he want him, but he needs somebody to actually be able to finish. Like, he has to have somebody to hand the ball off to complete that transaction. That's why Ben is what Ben is. The guy that flirts with the triple-double, if I'm not mistaken, one of those is assists, right?
Absolutely.
That's usually generally one of the stats that he fills up. You know, does he fill up the points? Not always. Does he fill up the rebounds? Occasionally. He is 6'10", right?
Yeah.
But it's the assist that you tend to gravitate towards because that's where Ben Simmons is operating his best. And the question then goes back to...
a lot of times people don't put in, when you get an assist, that equals 2 or 3 points. It doesn't go to his points per game, but he accounts for, he averages 16 points a game and say 9 assists. Well, now he's averaging, he's almost accounting for over 40 points a night sometimes.
He is. And Embiid, the game plan, if you have Embiid, is go around Embiid. That is always going to be the focus. But you see these small sample sizes of when Simmons is on the floor without Embiid, and he is able to attack and do a lot of good things without Embiid. He becomes a different type of player. He's out in transition more. He's pushing the pace more, and the Sixers become a different type of team. That's what makes this team so unique. We saw it last year at the end of the season. Simmons took this team on a special run. Yes, it was against tanking teams who weren't playing for anything, but you still got to acknowledge what Simmons is able to do when Embiid's not on the floor. It's a very interesting dynamic.
It is an interesting dynamic. There's no question that Embiid takes a lot of touches, and the theory that he clogs the lane and disrupts the space. I don't know. You hear some coaches suggest that he gives more space because you have to sag down on him so much.
He can.
If he is in the right spots on the floor.
Yes.
Now, if he's hanging out at the free throw line, that's a different story. However, I think that...
Or jacking up threes.
Yeah.
I think that there is more of a balance that they can get. And I don't know what Simmons' mindset is on this. And if this is Brown not, I don't know if there are plays that they can design for this where they can utilize those two guys much more if Simmons is going to be aggressive. That he can almost turn into like an option quarterback where he comes down the lane. If Ben's down on the block, somebody's got to come over to him, bounce pass, dunk. If not, one-on-one, I take you all the way down into the paint and do work on you on probably a much smaller defender. Or somebody doubles him from the backside. Well, there's the kick-out pass. Somebody's got to be – if he was more aggressive at taking the ball to the basket.
Simmons?
Yes.
Part of the problem with that is you have Embiid, and that goes back to Legler's point. They're sometimes not in the right spots. Simmons has the ball in his hand so much. If Embiid doesn't,
I would almost blame Embiid more for that. He's not in the right spot.
Well, I would
for
blame
Simmons to be the aggressor.
I would blame Brown. I mean, and I'm not knocking Brown now,
but it's Brown to come up with the chemistry. But that's the thing. I mean, you know, when you see guys whipping out their cell phone on the bench, right? Is Brown really in control of the team, or is he sitting back and kind of that to me? That was when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's the ultimate disrespect. You know, whether it was a family emergency or not. And I haven't been on with you guys for a chance to talk about this. This is my first chance to bring it up, but you know, whether it was an emergency or not, I mean, come on, that reflects on the head coach of what you think of him to be able to pull out your cell phone on the bench and be checking it during a loss.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with it.
Yeah.
I don't. it's tough. I mean, there could be something to it.
There is no question that Brett is thought to be a little bit more lax and more of a player's guy, that he lets him kind of let the leash go a little longer. And then he stepped up in game 2 and lashed out him. And many of the players said, I like that guy. Now, here's the problem. Jimmy Butler around the league is thought to be a tough guy to deal with. Is he a tough guy to deal with, or is he a guy that likes tough love? He loved the fact that he got blasted. If I blast you and curse you out, PT, you don't respond to that.
No, I don't like that at all.
Jimmy Butler would say, stop sugarcoating it and tell me off.
Because that's how he is.
Exactly.
Like he's transparent. So if he's getting transparency, he respects it.
Mike Scott said the same thing. I like the fact that he cussed us out.
Very similar.
There's a lot of players that respond. They want to be cursed out. They want to be told you're lazy or whatever. Some people, Pete Thompson, don't respond to that very well.
I'm sitting right here.
But don't respond to that very well. So, in this instance here, I think Brett lets his players get away with a little bit more. And then when he picks the right spot, they must respect him more for it.
That's why that halftime speech worked, to his benefit.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do that often.
Now, I do, like this text message here, how often do we see pick and roll sets that are Ben and Joel? He said they run a ton of the same sets throughout the game and don't normally stray away from the same actions, but I really think they could be running a lot more variations to their sets that involves Ben's strength driving and Joel overpowering a mismatch. I don't normally think it's Brett Brown's doing, but I feel like he hasn't figured out the right offensive fit for his best two players. Now, it's interesting because they seem to run a lot more pick and roll with Boban. Like when he's out there picking at the top of the key a lot more than – and I don't know if it's just because he feels like he's almost wasting Embiid by using him as a screen setter.
Is it more that Boban's like the lighthouse and Joel's the lighthouse that moves? Is that what it is? One just stands there like Brigantine or Barnegat Lighthouse, just stand there, and the other one can actually go up and down.
I would assume that their game plan with Boban is more spread out, and they use him as a pick setter, and then it's up to the guard to dribble off to the wing or attack the paint and kick out. Where Embiid, you want to give him the ball. That's your main focus.
Right. It's almost like the feeling of when you have that quarterback, you want the ball in his hand. You want him to throw a pass on the goal line. You're like, why don't you just hand it off?
Right.
Well, I have this quarterback that I want him to be the one that makes or breaks us. Embiid, it's almost like I don't want to waste him as just being some guy that sets a screen at the elbow while letting somebody, I don't know. I mean, I think their offense is certainly still evolving as this group of guys plays more together, and we hear it all the time. There's been a lot of really good articles written and in the playoffs here about how Brown says, this is what I see. What are you guys seeing? And the players are saying, let's do this or let's do that or let's do this. And I think with that, you have seen the Sixers offense kind of materialize a little bit more.
It's evolved. The offense,
evolve's a better word.
Yeah, the offense has 100% evolved, and I give Brown and the players credit. It seems like they've made some adjustments, but I'm not ready to put them on the throne yet because, like I said earlier, at the end of the day, the Nets are just a much weaker team, and the talent has been prevailing.
Well, and on the flip side, I don't want to make it seem like I'm ready to run Brett Brown out of town. I'm not in that camp either. I don't sit there and say Brett Brown must go. I brought that thing up about the phone only because we hadn't had a chance to talk about it as the three of us. I thought that was disrespect by the player. I thought it was a red flag to me. But at the same time, that's one isolated incident. That's like, that's not, oh my God, we got to run this guy out. There are times where I've thought that Brett Brown's coaching may be a little less than up to par. For example, when he went up against the Boston coach and got out-coached and got outclassed, right? Wasn't that last year in the playoffs? Didn't we see that a lot last year?
The perception was that, yes, that Stevens outcoached him.
And in the Miami series, even though they won it, if you said pick the better game strategist in the Miami series last year, which coach would they have picked? The majority of people.
At the end of that series, a lot of people believe that Spoelstra – well, at the beginning of the series, people believe that Spoelstra is a better coach than Brown, and they got beat 4-1.
Yeah. So how much – there's only so much the coaching's going to – there's only so far it's going to take you. Okay, but the chemistry thing, I do put that – look, you think Billy Cunningham I'm going to go way old school. You think Billy Cunningham went in and said, hey, Doc, you getting along with Andrew Toney today? Or, hey, Mo Cheeks, how you feeling about, Mark Ivoroni, are you guys getting along? I don't think that happened. I don't think those conversations happened.
No,
and those
because
were successful teams.
That comes organically. At least it's supposed to come organically, right? Like relationships and, teammate chemistry.
If anything, I think the league's probably worse. And that's, again, I'm just going to sound like old guy, get off my lawn. But, I think you built a team chemistry back in the day. And now I think every player is his own CEO of his own corporation. And that corporation is XYZ, like whoever that guy is, whether it's Ben Simmons and he's the CEO and president and ultimate decision maker of Ben Simmons Inc., or whether it's Joel Embiid or whether it's Jimmy Butler, we never know what the heck that guy's thinking.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind, like you talk about Billy Cunningham and back in that day, things have evolved so much to where, and we have this discussion all the time about how much the coach matters, how much impact they really have. The one thing that I think that the coach does have an impact on is managing the personalities, managing. Do you guys get along?
Yeah.
How do I get you guys better? You don't have to like him, but can you, like those aspects.
Work together.
And I think that's where Brown doesn't get enough credit for. He's got, 7 new players on this team?
Yeah.
Since February?
Yep.
That he is trying to, number one, find out their strengths and weaknesses. Find out who plays well together. Find out what 5 on the floor make the most sense. All while trying to decide, all right, well, I got to keep my 5 starters happy, but I also have to find some sort of rotation that works when these guys are on the bench. And for a while, he was having some problems with that, not because he's an idiot or not a good coach, but because this guy's hurt, I got to start him. So now I can't play him with the reserves. When Embiid misses the last X amount of games, that means somebody else has to start who would have been playing with the reserves. Well, then Embiid finally plays, and what happens? Ben Simmons has gas. Now he can't play. Now T.J. McConnell's got to be in the starting lineup instead of, it's just
like gastroenteritis? Is that his name for gas?
Yeah. Allegedly.
1% of farts actually smell.
What?
Yeah, it was on the Levitard show.
Oh, well, then it must be true.
It has to be.
That's an average, though. That's an average.
It's Tuesday with Thompson. Pete Thompson's with us.
Why did you read that when I was in the room? Is there a reason that you talked about
I just happened to hear. Happened to hear that segment of the show. Mike, they use Embiid on plenty of screens, but more for getting JJ and others open. That is fair. They use him at the elbow to hand off to JJ a lot, but I'm talking more about with him and Ben Simmons is more what I meant.
Right.
Or Jimmy Butler or Tobias Harris. It all seems to be just to get JJ off.
Yeah, they do not use Embiid enough. I would like to see Embiid with the ball and have Simmons set a screen for him.
The game 2, when they went with JJ and Ben in the pick and roll a lot.
Yep.
They didn't go to that at all in game 3.
No, but that could be a good strategy.
Right. He might say, all right, we showed it to you.
Right.
They prepared for it. We don't want to show it to you.
Exactly.
All right, Sports Bash, Mike, Ryan, Tuesday with Thompson. Pete Thompson's in the house.
Tuesdays will never be the same. You got to use that line.
A Thursday, we'll be live at the Wonder Bar for the draft party. Now, let me ask you, Pete, you came in today with some Eagles schedules, as if these came out like today.
Now, every
Breaking
year.
News.
Thank you.
I printed these out for you guys.
Listen, every year the Eagles send out their official email as soon as the schedule's released. And within the body of that email, I happen to like the way the schedule's set up. Like, it's one that doesn't have a lot of logos. It's very text-specific.
Easy to read.
Very clean.
Yeah. So I said, you know what? I'll do a nice thing for my boys, Josh and Ryan and Mike, and I'll print a couple of these out.
No, I like it.
And there you go. That's why I did it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, PT.
You're welcome.
This is tremendous help.
What is this Thursday, September 26th? That's my niece's birthday, by the way.
That's at Green Bay.
Yeah, but how about, did you know that they're going to have a game on Amazon next year? Look at that. Fox, NFL Network, and Amazon.
Well, did they have a game on Twitter last year?
Yep. They had the London game on Twitter. I guess so.
Or Yahoo?
Twitter was fine, but when the baseball was in Twitter, that was awful.
Oh, it was on Facebook.
Yeah,
whatever. It was awful. I'm trying to get to the point. The point is, it sucked.
We were watching that in studio. I remember that.
Yeah. That's because you don't know how to use Facebook.
Oh, that's because you're so mean to me.
So, Thursday, we will be live. The draft party. The PT will be there.
I will be there at some point, yes. I have some things to take care of beforehand. But I would say in the 4 o'clock hour, expect the PT.
So 5:30.
You do know me.
Scott
hey,
Wright.
I got here today.
Thursdays
Wright,
with
5
Thompson.
o'clock. 5 o'clock, Scott Wright joins us. draft day. So
that's the man.
So PT, we've got big prizes this year, by the way.
I heard this Patriots prize. That
Eagles Patriots.
Right.
That game is on November 17th, according to the schedule the PT
that
handed
is
us
correct.
today.
You're welcome.
And also 2019 Eagles Experience, where you get to pick a road trip.
Yes. So right out of the bat, look.
I'm going to Atlanta. I loved Atlanta. I had a great time at the Super Bowl. That stadium, by the way, is amazing.
Sure, you do love Atlanta.
They
Plus,
got like
the concession
Chick-fil-A,
prices.
and I think it's a Monday. No, it's a Sunday night.
It's Sunday.
game.
No Chick-fil-A. That ain't happening. But the concession prices are great.
Yeah.
Arthur
You
Blank
can
made
walk
sure
around that
they're
place and get like
they
have
reasonable.
You can refill your soda.
Yes.
They have like soda machines on the concourse. So once
Strong.
you buy the soda,
You're
you
in.
just keep going around and keep filling back up.
Man,
Now, if you keep drinking soda, you can get gout.
Who said that?
that's what
Atlanta,
MG's dealing with.
Green Bay would be. I mean, I've never been to Lambeau Field, but it's Thursday. Let's see what else you got. Minnesota.
no Thursday
at
night game,
Minnesota.
PT.
I've been to Minnesota. They played a Super Bowl there. It was very, very cold. At Dallas.
It won't be cold in October, though.
That's true.
Would you go
Now,
to Buffalo?
you were in downtown Minneapolis. I did not
Willingly?
make it there.
Willingly, yes. Volunteer yourself for Buffalo.
Maybe if MG was paying
would
the
like-
tab at
you
the
would
Anchor
like
Bar
Buffalo,
for us
PT.
to have those original Buffalo wings.
Yeah, PT. Buffalo's a place that you would like.
In October,
Yeah, it's not too bad.
it says you.
Minnesota. I wasn't in downtown Minneapolis. You made it down there.
I did, and I made it on Hennepin Street or whatever it is, that mall they have outdoors.
I hear that place is tremendous.
It was nuts.
The Mall of
It was-
America?
No. The Mall of America I saw plenty of. I saw it when I was late and the Radio Row had basically packed up and left. I saw Mall of America when I walked around the whole thing. I saw Freddie Mitchell in the Mall of America.
Of course.
I'd like to thank my hands.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw the Mall of America. That's like south of the downtown area that Gill is
Who's
talking about.
PT
Gotcha.
blaming?
For?
Donovan McNabb or other?
Who am I blaming for what? For
McNabb, his comments.
Look, McNabb, there are some times where if I could, I like to go up and smack him in the face and go, who raised you? Wilma didn't raise you that way. What are you doing?
Come on.
I just don't get the guy. And so when I saw...
Well, what he said was accurate. He just didn't.
Yes, but did somebody pay him to say it? Is he so desperate because he's been fired from every other job that he has to come out and say something to get himself back
He
on
was
the radar
asked
again?
a question
Oh,
by
come
Zach
on.
Gelb.
I heard McMullen the other day. His line was the best. For a guy that was a communications major, McNabb sure does screw up a lot of communications.
That's the answer
This
that I think
guy,
everyone can agree
for
on.
whatever reason, blame the Philadelphia radio station that sent fans up to hate on him. This guy has always had a complicated relationship with the Philly fan base. But I fall in the category of I don't think former players, whether they're an analyst or not, should try to come back and be all friendly with the guy in August and then rip him in September and October and November. To me, that's just two-faced. Be who you are.
Which he just was. He was asked a question. He said, look,
No. Go to Carson Wentz and tell him you have that problem. Don't say it on a national radio show.
I agree.
and he wasn't calling Wentz out, though.
But he could have easily said, Carson's my guy. That's my city. I hope.
Are you kidding me? You're talking about the same number 5 that when I asked him straight up, Donovan, if you had a shirt, what would it say? And he gave me that BS. Well, I just give all glory to God, and I'm thankful. He always has known how to pivot and say nothing. So he had an opportunity when the radio host
you can't do that on a radio show.
He could have said something without saying anything, like Ryan's saying. He could have said something without it blowing up.
No,
and
that's what
becoming a
you
thing.
do.
Whoa. Donovan McNabb flat out, I acknowledge that, but I won't acknowledge that. Donovan McNabb flat out
Next question.
had an opportunity to take a platform for Donovan McNabb. He knew what he was saying. He knew where it would go, and he knew that it would
I
stir
don't
up
know. I think you're
controversy.
giving him too much credit.
I don't think I am, because this isn't this isn't the first time that it's happened. Especially when Donovan, where are we? We're in April, right? So the draft is coming home. Maybe some people are going to be thinking they need an analyst again. I'm really just doing local Phoenix TV. I need a little
He
help
was on
here.
national radio.
I know where he was.
mean,
I'm saying he's lost every gig that he has. He's trying to make himself relevant
I
again.
don't know that he gets
Well, he
hurt.
has more DUIs than interceptions. I mean, whatever he's got.
Hire a driver, man.
He always had low interceptions, PT.
What's your point?
What's your point?
You would think
What's your point, man?
You would think that McNabb, of all people, would know the blow-up that would result in him saying.
That's why I'm saying it's a calculated thing on his part. He knows who he's
well,
talking to.
He came out today. Look, he was on the radio today again and said, I don't need to apologize to anybody.
Yeah, which is, again, all part of his plan. Oh, I'm just going to double down.
I like how you think that
I'm going to double down. I'm going to dig my heels in, and that'll get me more attention.
I like
and that'll
how
be
you
another
think
headline.
that he predestined this.
I don't think he predestined it, but I think he has a choice when asked the question. Don't you remember, I'm bringing up this story about way back, and maybe you want to tell the listeners what I'm talking about when McNabb got hurt way back when, and I tried to ask him that question point blank.
Okay, now does this change anybody's opinion? Tiki Barber today.
Oh, man.
Again.
Here we go.
On the Tiki and Tierney show says, quote, Carson Wentz has to be healthy for 100% of the game and plays for the Eagles in 2019. Otherwise, if you're the Eagles, you better start thinking about plan B, period. He says he agrees with McNabb.
100%? It's football, man.
It's a contact sport. I want the guy to be 100% as much as the next guy. Clearly, Donovan and Tiki are on the same, let's make ourselves relevant again, and let's get on the top.
Tiki has a morning show.
That's great. I've met Tiki. Stood on the same team with him right here in Egg Harbor Township.
How'd you hit
know
him?
That? How did I hit Tiki? Right in the face. No, I'm kidding. He was playing. I was covering him. I interviewed him. I'm way taller than him. You're taller than him, and you're not that tall.
No.
Wow.
Hey, Sports Bash.
Especially with your bad heel.
Yeah, I'm doing terrible today. Hey, Sports Bash, tomorrow's show, Keith Smith talks NBA with us, recaps, which we think will be a Sixer win tonight over the Nets. Scott Wright on Thursday's show talks NFL draft. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, download the app, and tomorrow we'll blast out the final keyword and use that keyword to get yourself entered for Thursday's draft party. We still have 10 spots open after today, so get yourself involved. How do you do it? Get the app and turn your alerts on, Pete.
Oh, that's the secret.
That's what you got to go to your settings, Pete.
That's quacktastic.
Arena football is coming to Boardwalk Hall. May 4th is the Atlantic City Blackjacks home opener as they take on the Columbus Destroyers. Get your home opener packs now at acblackjacks.com.
Game of Thrones?
Absolutely not.
I love it.
We're batting 1,000.
All of us.
I made that public that I don't watch Game of Thrones, and I got a little vilified on the PT's Facebook page by my own family, in fact.
All right, 5 questions to wrap up the show. Before we get to the 5 real quick, did you, last night, Jimmy Rollins made his debut. What grade would you give him?
Solid B. I mean,
I heard he cursed.
I didn't hear that. I did hear him, he brought out Croc
You're
a
the
lot.
one guy watching the damn game.
No, Michael was watching the
One
game
guy.
too, and there were others. But he brought a lot more out of John Kruk, and
Oh, was it Kruk and him?
it was Kruk.
For the
and
2
him.
minutes I was watching, I
Yes.
heard McCarthy and nobody else.
Then you picked the wrong 2 minutes. No, it was Kruk, McCarthy, and J. Roland Booth, and they're going to be there again tonight.
He
if
said,
I'm
"Oh,
not
bleep,
mistaken.
S-H." You can figure out the
Yeah, I
rest.
can. Well, nice job, Jimmy. But hey, I'll still take Jimmy Rollins in the booth over, what was that dream team?
Mike Schmidt?
Jamie Moyer. Schmitty annoys me. Schmitty, how can you not? He'll ask things like, oh, how do you score that play? Dude, you're a Hall of Fame third baseman, and you don't know the freaking rules? That drives me crazy. And then over the top was when he said he took a cart at Marion. You know that?
Yeah, you've told this story a few times.
Well, it pisses me off. That's why.
All right, PT, you ready for the 5? It's been a while.
You're giving them to me? This is how it's
I'm going to
working.
give them to both of you.
Okay.
We're going to
Go.
discuss it here.
All right.
All right, so staying on the topic of the Phillies, losers of 4 of 5. You concerned, or what's something that you've seen?
They're the
that's
walking
concerning?
wounded, just as he was starting to get some playing time, got his jetpacks, pulls his hamstring out in Denver. They had to bring up the pride of Malvern Prep, Goslin, to bring him up just to have a warm body.
I saw him hit one off the fence the other night.
Yeah, it was a key hit at a clutch time, but that's the thing. They miss Gene Segura, they miss Kingery, they're missing all these guys. Plus, the biggest concern for me, Ryan, is that, and I said this like week 1 and got vilified for it in my house, I just don't think Aaron Nola there's something wrong with him. I don't know what it is. I just don't think Aaron Nola's Aaron Nola. I know he wasn't going to be like the Hall of Fame year that he had last year, the Cy Young year that he had last year, but I just think there's something wrong. That's my concern.
All right, question number 2.
Gill's not answering any of these?
What do you got, MG?
I interjected
Anything?
in
Oh,
there.
okay, go ahead.
He was a part of it. NHL playoffs. You guys been watching any? A little? None?
I've been watching enough to see like when Ovechkin dropped the guy. I've been watching enough to see Tampa lose. I've been watching enough to see Stevie Yzerman.
We got two Game 7s tonight,
Just
BT.
bail. Well, that'll be in the jump too.
Even I know that.
I watched Stevie Yzerman bail on Tampa so fast that he was like, Detroit's calling? See ya!
All right, question
We got,
number 3.
by the way, Boston, Toronto,
Yeah.
and Vegas and San Jose. Is that in the jump?
The Boston-Toronto game is.
Is that in the jump or is that on a device?
On a device like that I'll scroll through. The Vegas.
You're not interested in the Game 7s?
I always like Game 7, but not at the expense of the Philadelphia 76ers. They get my primary attention.
I'm
yeah, but
telling
this
you.
game here, this Vegas game's at 10.
That
I'll
game
be asleep
6.
by then. What are you kidding me?
No, stay up, man.
No, man. I'm still, even school or no school, I've been getting up at 5 every morning.
Yeah, man.
I wake up and I look at a clock and I think, I don't have to go to school. And then I wake up again, it's like 6. And I'm like, ugh. Then I wake up again, it's like 7. Like, nobody's awake yet.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, good. You want me to call you? We'll have a barbecue, 7 a.m.
I have people that call me at that
Have a
hour all the
barbecue.
time.
Sure, Heidi would love that.
She's up too.
Who's calling you? Pete
5:45, she gets up.
Thompson. We'll have a picnic.
What else we got?
All right, Sixers, Nets. Who needs to have a big game tonight?
Oh, this is the PT question right here.
Who needs to have a big game tonight out of the Sixers and Nets? Other than the usual guys?
Yes.
Who's tonight's game? Who is it?
I'd like to see Simmons do a little
No,
more.
you know who's the guy we're talking about tomorrow? The guy we're
that
talking about
wasn't
tomorrow?
the question. He said who needs to have a big game. You're going to say who's going to have a big game.
No, I'm saying the guy we're going to be talking about tomorrow
Is?
means who's going to have a big game.
All right, so who is it?
Tobias Harris.
Ooh.
This is his night.
I hope so, man. Listen.
I mean, trust me, there was nobody that was going to pick Mike Scott the other day, and he hit the biggest basket of the entire basketball game.
There
Love
it
Mike
is,
Scott.
PT.
Sixers, Nets, guys. Sixers close it out tonight?
Yep.
Yes. Yep, hands down.
Do they cover the spread?
That's a little bit
9.
Yeah, -9. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Gil?
If I was betting that game and giving advice, I'd probably take the Nets.
Ooh.